All right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. You ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Today, we are going all in on Bigfoot,
Ooh,
one of the biggest mysteries out there.
it really is.
We're going to look at all the evidence for and against Bigfoot's existence.
Awesome.
And we're going to see what we can figure out.
Sounds like fun.
And you know, it's funny, even the name Bigfoot has a backstory
It does.
that I think really kind of sets the stage for this whole question of, truth and tall tales and what's real and what's not.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
It all goes back to 1958
okay.
in California when a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew came across these huge footprints,
Okay.
like 6-10 inches long.
Wow.
And of course, rumors started flying, about this large unknown creature in the woods.
Yeah, so that's where the reporter Andrew Gonzoli comes in, right?
Exactly.
He was the one who was looking for a catchy name for his article
He needed something good.
about the footprints. And, Bigfoot was born,
There you go.
and it stuck.
And it's stuck.
It became this huge part of, pop culture.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Here's the twist.
Decades later, after Jerry Crew had passed away, a coworker's family came forward and said
Yeah.
that it was actually a prank
A prank.
by their father, Ray Wallace.
Oh, wow.
He had carved these big wooden feet
Oh, no.
and was making these tracks.
Oh, my gosh.
So the very thing that started the modern Bigfoot craze
I know.
was a hoax.
Talk about a plot twist.
Right?
That's crazy.
It really adds like a layer of complexity to this whole thing.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean that every other report is invalid.
No, not at all.
It just means we need to be careful.
Yeah, we need to be really careful.
And have good evidence.
Approach things with skepticism
Yeah,
and be thoughtful about it.
absolutely.
Okay, so hoax aside, when we say Bigfoot, what are we even talking about? What does this creature supposedly look like?
Right. Well, based on all kinds of eyewitness accounts, Bigfoot is this large creature anywhere from 6 to 9 feet tall.
Whoa.
Some even say 15 feet,
Wow.
muscular, covered in dark hair. They often have broad shoulders, long arms, a big brow ridge.
I've heard that some people have described that there's no visible neck.
That's right.
Almost like the head sits directly on the shoulders,
Yeah.
which is starting to sound a little familiar.
We know a lot of those features, especially the size, the bill, that obscured neck, you could really think about a bear standing upright,
Oh, yeah?
especially if you see it from far away or the light's not so good.
Makes sense. So what about the giant footprints, though,
Yeah.
that people always talk about with Bigfoot sightings?
Right.
I mean, a bear can't fake that, right? We're talking 24 inches long, 8 inches wide, some even with claw marks.
Yeah, you would think that bears couldn't leave prints that big, but bears do have 5 toes
Oh, that's right.
and claws, just like we see in a lot of Bigfoot prints.
Okay.
And even those really detailed casts that some people say show dermal ridges, those tiny skin patterns
Uh-huh.
that are unique to individuals, can be kind of misleading. Oh, so you're saying those intricate details on the footprints might not actually be Bigfoot skin?
Right, exactly. Footprints in soft ground like mud or sand can pick up all sorts of details from the environment,
Interesting.
like leaf veins or other little bits and pieces, which make them look way more complex than they are.
Hmm.
So yeah, footprints can be interesting, but they don't automatically mean Bigfoot.
Right.
We have to think about everything.
We've got to keep an open mind,
Absolutely.
be skeptical, and look at all the evidence.
For sure.
So we've talked about physical evidence like footprints and how you got to look at it carefully.
Yeah.
But what about the cultural side of things? Bigfoot's not just like a modern fad, right?
Oh, definitely not.
These stories, they go way back.
Yeah.
They're like embedded in folklore and mythology and stuff.
Absolutely. Long before we had, that 1958 footprint incident and the name Bigfoot became popular.
Yeah.
Native American cultures across North America already had stories about hairy wild men living in the wilderness.
Wow. So these stories, they're like hundreds, maybe even thousands of years old.
Exactly. And it's amazing because all these different indigenous tribes, with their own cultures and languages,
Right.
they all have these similar stories. The names and details might be different, but
Yeah.
the basic idea of this big, hairy, human-like creature living in the forest, it's there in so many traditions.
Wow. Are there any like specific examples of these ancient stories that really stand out to you?
Oh, yeah. There are lots of really cool examples. Like there's this petroglyph at Painted Rock in California.
Okay.
It shows a bunch of figures that a lot of people think are supposed to be Bigfoot.
Really?
and they think it's about 1,000 years old.
1,000 years old.
Yeah, and this site's connected to stories from the Yokuts tribe
Okay.
about a hairy man that lived in the area.
1,000-year-old Bigfoot drawing. That's pretty wild.
It is.
What else is there?
Well, another really good one is from the Sales Nation in British Columbia.
Okay.
That's actually where the term Sasquatch comes from.
Oh, really?
It's based on their word for hairy man. And these stories were recorded way back in 1929.
Wow. So this isn't just some modern myth. It's like woven into the history of all these cultures.
Right.
Makes you wonder, are they like based on real encounters with some unknown creature? Or are they just ways to explain the unknown? Like make sense of the world?
You know, that's something anthropologists and folklorists have been thinking about for a long time.
I bet.
The human mind, it just loves stories.
Yeah.
We want to find meaning and reasons for things we don't understand.
Makes sense.
And this wild man idea, this big hairy creature hiding in the woods,
Right.
it's not just in North America. You see it everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
The Yeti in the Himalayas, the Yowie in Australia.
It's like a universal thing.
It is, like this need to fill in the gaps with something bigger than ourselves.
Something mysterious.
Yeah.
So we have all these old stories and people saying they've seen Bigfoot.
Right.
But what about like hard evidence? You know, the kind of thing that really proves it's real.
Well, one piece of evidence that comes up a lot is the Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967. This grainy footage that's supposed to show a Bigfoot walking through the woods.
I've seen parts of it. It's super blurry.
Yeah, it is. It's become kind of a holy grail for people who believe in Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But it's really controversial, too.
Do experts think it's real?
Most of them think it's a hoax.
Really?
But the debate about it is super interesting.
Oh, come.
Well, because even though the footage is blurry and doesn't really show much,
Yeah.
a lot of people believe it.
Huh. It's like we want to see what we want to see.
Yeah, especially when it's something mysterious.
Like we try to fill in the blanks.
Right.
And then there are some people who say Bigfoot's got superpowers, like mind reading or traveling between dimensions.
I know, right?
Where do those ideas even come from?
Well, when there's no real proof, it's easy for people to get carried away.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot mystery becomes this empty space where we put our own ideas and hopes and fears.
So how do we sort through all of this? The folklore, the sightings, the blurry films,
Right.
the crazy theories.
That's where critical thinking comes in. And science, we have to ask, what's the evidence? Does it make sense? Are there other better explanations? And that's where scientific studies are really helpful. Like, remember that DNA study from Oxford and Lausanne's museum back in 2014?
Oh, yeah. The one where they analyzed like 30 hair samples that were supposed to be from Bigfoot?
Exactly.
What happened with that?
Well, the results were pretty interesting.
So they were trying to find like Bigfoot DNA.
Exactly.
What did they find?
Well, out of all the samples they looked at, most of them were from animals we already know,
Okay.
especially bears.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, given all that stuff about mistaken identity we talked about.
Right. So no mysterious unknown primate.
Well, not exactly.
What do you mean?
Most of the samples were from regular creatures, but one was human.
So someone was out there.
Yeah, but it wasn't who they were hoping for.
Not exactly what the Bigfoot fans wanted to hear.
Nope.
Does that mean the search for Bigfoot's over? Should we just give up?
Not necessarily. Just because we didn't find proof doesn't mean he's not out there.
That's true.
It just means we need to keep looking.
Okay, so where does that leave us? We started with prank footprints.
Right.
Then we talked about Native American stories.
Why?
We had those blurry films.
Yeah.
And we even got into DNA analysis.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. So what's the final answer? Should we believe in Bigfoot or not?
You know, I think that's up to each person to decide.
Yeah.
You've looked at all the info, the different sides, the good and bad parts of the evidence.
Right.
Now it's your turn to weigh it all up and figure out what you think.
I like that. It's not about telling people what to believe.
No.
It's about helping them learn to think for themselves.
That's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not always about getting a clear answer.
Right.
It's about asking good questions, exploring the unknown, trying to understand the mystery.
Totally. And even if we never find Bigfoot, for sure.
Yeah.
Just thinking about all this stuff has been really cool. We learned about folklore and history and science.
And maybe even a little bit about ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is the point of all this that maybe there's no answer?
Maybe the mystery is the point.
Maybe. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep asking questions. And if you're ever out in the woods,
Yeah.
keep an eye out for those big footprints.
Yeah.
You never know what you might find. Happy squatching.